Hi, it's Katrina! From confidential documents of a secret communist security agency to getting abducted by aliens, here are 11 of the most intriguing examples of forbidden history. Number 11. The Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is the oldest surviving epic tale on Earth, written 1,500 years before Homer wrote the Iliad. It tells the story of the Sumerian king Gilgamesh of Uruk and all of his adventures. Famous in Mesopotamia, the handsome king is not without his flaws, and so he has to face many challenges as he searches for immortality. Gilgamesh is the son of a priest king and the goddess Ninsun, which makes him semi-divine, and in his quest he defeats monsters and learns about friendship and death, and the relationship between humans and gods, and all kinds of other things. What some people believe, however, is that Gilgamesh is not searching for life on Earth, but for a means of transport to go back to his mother's planet. It's just all about interpretation. Ancient alien supporters believe that this epic tale explains how aliens created the first humans, who then believed them to be gods. The Sumerian gods of Mesopotamia that Gilgamesh had to face were the Anunnaki, sky gods that came from the heavens and brought science, math, technology, and writing to humanity. Author Zecharia Sitchin wrote a book claiming ancient Sumerians said the Anunnaki came from a mythical planet called Nibiru. Along with two other authors, Eric von Daniken and Immanuel Velikovsky, they formed the club of pseudo-historians who believe that ancient texts are not merely mythological stories. While mainstream academics and historians reject this notion, these authors believe that ancient people were more advanced because they got direct extraterrestrial help. Number 10. The Vatican Secret Archive. Deep in the heart of the Vatican, hidden beneath the center of the Catholic religion, are 53 miles of shelving with 1,200 years worth of secret documents. This is the Vatican Secret Archive, and it is quite legendary. As its name suggests, it is secretive, but the actual translation was probably supposed to be the private archives, meaning that they are the Pope's personal property. The official name was changed to the Vatican Apostolic Archive, but it's too late now. The name Secret Archive has stuck. For centuries, the archives have been the subject of speculation and conspiracy theories. While a lot of people don't believe that these sacred libraries exist, they are 100% real. The archives were entirely confidential until the 19th century, when Pope Leo XIII opened some of it up to Christian scholars. Only around 1,000 people are allowed in every year, and even the top scholars in Catholic history need to go through a very rigorous vetting process before they're even allowed to step foot inside the vault. These secrets are also held inside of what can only be described as a fortress deep within the Vatican itself. And while the Catholic Church does claim that they are not hiding anything horrifying within their archives, that is definitely up for debate. Of course, the Vatican would have you believe that the only thing stored inside of their giant vault is paperwork, 1,200 years of just paperwork. But the secretive nature, protection, and the trove of information make people wonder, what are they hiding down there? While we definitely don't know everything that's hidden within the Catholic Church's most impressive collection of documents, there are a few ancient papers that have been revealed through the years that really stand out. There is correspondence of royal families, top secret memos, papal letters, and ancient versions of the Bible. The archives don't share any documents relating to a pope until 75 years after their death. An extremely secret document known as the Chinon Parchment was rediscovered in 2001 and then made public in 2007. This document details the trials of the Roman Catholic military, or the Knights Templar, proving that they were absolved of heresy in 1308 by Pope Clement V. There is a letter from Mary, Queen of Scots, forced to abdicate her throne and sentenced to death by her cousin Elizabeth I, begging the Pope for her life. There is the excommunication of Martin Luther, who sparked Protestantism, and documentation that has not been shared regarding the position of the Pope during World War II. There is also the rumor that they have documentation proving that Jesus fathered a child, as spread by the Da Vinci Code. While the Vatican has actually shared some of its collection, there is much that will probably remain a mystery forever. Number 9. Bulgaria's Murder Bureau. The Committee for State Security was Bulgaria's communist-era security agency that was top secret. Known as Service 7, it was responsible for kidnapping and killing Bulgarian citizens around the world. It allegedly began operations in 1963 and by 1972 was engaged in illicit activity in at least 9 countries throughout Europe and even in Africa. The information about this secret service came to light in 2006, after a modern law allowed public access to government documents. 24 Chasa, one of Bulgaria's top-selling dailies, investigated nearly 5,000 pages of recently declassified archives from the former Communist Intelligence Service. These documents revealed the existence of counter-espionage units, deadly covert operations, and missions with code names such as Traitor, X, Blind Man, and Betrayer. These were clearly secret code names for missions designed to take out men who the Bulgarian government believed to be traitors to the country. It was specifically designed to liquidate traitors of the motherland who caused damage, supported enemy activity, or otherwise did things that the Bulgarian government just didn't like. It's been reported that at the peak of this secret bureau's activities, there were at least 39 agents working to kill, kidnap, and otherwise silence dissenters. Number 8. Space aliens breeding with humans. A recent poll has indicated that at least 6% of Americans believe that they have been abducted by aliens at one point or another. They say that extraterrestrials are using them to reproduce because they are having problems on their home planet. Also, aliens are creating hybrid beings so that they can one day take over the world. 6% is not very much at all, and there is never any evidence of these abductions. However, you might be surprised to learn that there are some reputable scientists in the world who are claiming that aliens are not only involved in breeding experiments between themselves and humans, but that they have been doing it for a very long time. An instructor at the University of Oxford in England named Young Hei Chi believes that aliens are actually creating human and extraterrestrial hybrids that will be able to survive through the end of the world. According to Chi, as well as a retired Temple University historian named David Jacobs, who runs the International Center for Abduction Research, say that the numbers of reported alien abductions have risen dramatically over the past decades. As reported by NBC News, Jacobs has interviewed more than 1,000 people who claim to have been abducted, using hypnotic regression that apparently allows them to recall their unearthly encounters with aliens. One of the most popular explanations for this is that aliens are trying to create a new and better being that is going to be able to survive in a world where climate change creates boiling seas and flaming forests. But how can we tell if aliens or hybrids are really living among us? Chi says the reason we don't see the aliens is that they are largely unrecognizable. Number 7. The JFK Files. The JFK files have been kept secret by the government for decades. These files are directly linked to President John F. Kennedy and his assassination. The files have helped to fuel all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories that others besides the notorious Lee Harvey Oswald were involved in his dramatic assassination. As far as we know, there are more than 35,000 documents inside the JFK files, but this information has never been seen by the public. Several collections of them have been released over the years, but they seem to be carefully selected and seriously redacted, meaning they didn't really say anything. But here's where this history gets seriously forbidden. In 1992, the JFK Records Collection Act was passed. This new act claimed that all the JFK files needed to be released to the public within 25 years. This was set to happen under the presidency of Donald Trump, but it didn't. The public waited for the JFK files to be released in compliance with the deadline set and for archival evidence to be revealed, but anything interesting was again held back. Apparently, the files were able to be kept from the public eye because of an obscure rule that states no files need to be released if they pose an identifiable national security issue. After all these years of waiting, President Donald Trump pushed the unfiltered release of the JFK files back to October 26, 2021. Do you think they will ever be released? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6. The Secret Queen of the Assyrian Empire. The secret queen of the Assyrian Empire, Sammu Rammat, was famously known as Semiramis. She was the queen regent of the Assyrian Empire between 811 and 806 BC. She held the throne for her son in the years before he reached maturity and was one of the only women to have ever been able to sit on the throne in the absence of a husband. But this is a piece of history lost to the ages. According to the scholar Gwendolyn Leake, Semiramis achieved quite a bit of fame and power not only in her own lifetime, but beyond, even if she has been counted out of the history books. Semiramis allegedly had massive influence in the ancient Assyrian court, and being able to maintain the throne for her son, even after her husband died, was no easy feat back in the day. This was unheard of at the time, considering women were not allowed to have any position of authority within the Assyrian Empire. She made quite a name for herself. Legend has it that she managed to stabilize the empire after a brutal civil war. She might have conquered the Armenians, and she developed incredible infrastructure for the kingdom, and yet her name is barely seen, even when looking into the ancient rulers of the Assyrian Empire. Number 5. Ancient Hebrew drugs. A new archaeological discovery is shedding some light on the ancient history of Hebrews. This new revelation, which was made at an ancient Israelite altar, is suggesting that the Hebrew people smoked marijuana during their religious rituals. The discovery was made by archaeologists who used gas chromatography to test the Iron Age shrine found at Tel Arad, deep in Israel's Negev desert. This altar was located inside the very heart of the temple, and it appears that it had been used strictly for the burning of cannabis. There was another altar tested that had been used hundreds of years ago for burning frankincense. Together, these two altars and what was being burned on them would have set the ritualistic mood. One of the altars was used to burn an herb that would get people into the religious spirit, and the other altar was used to make the entire place smell mystical. According to Iran Ari, the curator of the Iron Age and Persian periods archaeology section at the Israel Museum, many cultures throughout the ancient world used hallucinogenic ingredients to reach a state of religious ecstasy, even in Israel. Number 4. Uncovered slave quarters. Historians have recently uncovered the slave quarters of a woman named Sally Hemings at the house of Thomas Jefferson in Monticello. Their controversial relationship has led to much debate since it was made public during his first term as president. Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States and is considered the primary author of the Declaration of Independence. Because of his role in shaping the United States, his relationship with Sally is something that many people would like to ignore. But archaeologists in 2017 excavated an area of Jefferson's Monticello mansion and discovered the living quarters of the enslaved woman, and most historians agree she was the mother of at least 6 of Thomas Jefferson's children. The discovery is shedding more light on how enslaved people were living back in the early 1800s. According to Gardner Halleck, the director of restoration for Jefferson's plantation, some of Sally's children may even have been born in the newly excavated room. This room was adjacent to Thomas Jefferson's own bedroom, but it went unnoticed for decades. For the first time, there is a physical space dedicated to Sally Hemings and her life, says Mia Magruder-Daman, a spokeswoman for Monticello. She was a real person with relationships and emotions. For many years, many tried to cover up the fact that Jefferson had a relationship with Sally and hide the difficult past of the estate. Now there are tours dedicated to provide transparency, focusing on the 600 enslaved people who once lived there. Number 3. Imperial Japanese Army Unit 731. The Japanese Unit 731 was a research program that turned terribly, terribly evil. This program was one of the greatest secrets of Japan until the 90s, really, when information started trickling out. This unit was put together to research diseases, chemicals, and weapons. Unit 731 began life as a public health agency and began with volunteers from the Army, but then they moved on to use prisoners as test subjects by giving them frostbite or a disease and then testing possible cures. But as World War II progressed, Unit 731 began to weaponize diseases. They were searching for the ultimate virus to drop over cities and, of course, tested directly on prisoners. Thousands of Chinese, Mongolian, Korean, and Russian prisoners underwent all kinds of horrors in the name of war science. The New York Times interviewed former members of the unit who said that none of the prisoners ever survived. The Times revealed it is becoming evident that the Japanese officers in charge of the program hoped to use their weapons against the United States. They proposed using balloon bombs to carry disease to America, and they had a plan in the summer of 1945 to use kamikaze pilots to dump plague-infected fleas on San Diego. Their justification for all of this? In war, you have to win. Number 2. The Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment was a social psychology exercise unlike anything ever performed. A research group led by a psychology professor named Philip Zimbardo took 24 college-aged men and randomly assigned them to be either a prisoner or a guard by simply flipping a coin. Those who were deemed to be prisoners were then arrested just like an ordinary criminal. They were transported to Stanford University, where a mock jail had been created in the basement, and imprisoned just as if they had really committed crimes. This went on from between August 15th and August 21st, 1971. The experiment actually had to get called off because of serious psychological damage being done to the participants. The entire point of the experiment was to understand the difficulties between guards and prisoners in real prisons. The entire experiment had been funded by the United States Office of Naval Research. However, the Stanford prison experiment turned into a very disturbing look into the minds and the abilities of completely ordinary men. Within just a couple of days of the experiment starting, those who were chosen to be guards were seen committing acts of psychological torture on the prisoners they were supposed to be caring for. The guards began enforcing authoritarian rules and being generally abusive. In the end, Zimbardo interpreted the experiment results as showing that when ordinary men are put into positions of power, they become abusive, sadistic, and will embrace any kind of social norm, including authoritarian behavior. Basically, many psychologists say the experiment revealed the true evil of human nature. Number 1. The truth behind Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene is a center figure in Catholicism, and yet nobody can agree on who she was, what exact purpose she served in the life of Jesus Christ, or even why there is so much controversy surrounding her name. Gone for 2,000 years, she's been called a prostitute, she's been labeled a sinner, and some people believe she was in fact Jesus Christ's wife. Another popular belief is that Mary Magdalene has been used as a tool of manipulation by the church, and that they want to keep this history forbidden and secret. One of the biggest controversies surrounding Mary Magdalene is that many people say it was her that was seated at Jesus' right side at the Last Supper, not Judas, meaning that she was the most cherished of all his disciples, even outranking Peter. And according to Professor Joan Taylor from King's College in London, this idea is extremely dangerous to the church. Many professional historians, archaeologists, and religious scholars believe that Mary Magdalene held a crucial role in the life of Christ, and that the church has denied it for thousands of years, denouncing her as a prostitute to keep women away from positions of power within the organization of the church. If Mary Magdalene had been so important to Jesus, it would mean that the church should have female priests. Several ancient versions of the Bible are believed to mention her, including a lost book of Mary that is rumored to also be in the Vatican Secret Archives. Thanks for watching! What's your favorite story of forbidden history? Do you want to learn more? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for more videos. See you soon! Bye!